Hello everyone, my name is Natalie Ledwell. This is the Inspiration Show, and today my special guest is Suzanne McQueen. Suzanne McQueen, I should say. How are you, Suzanne?
I'm good. Thank you, Natalie. Thanks for having me this morning.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today because we're talking about understanding ourselves as women and specifically understanding how we work. And I think that the information that we're going to be sharing, that you'll be sharing today, is actually something that a lot of women will find as a godsend. And already, after we've just spoken a little bit, I've understand a little bit more about myself because of this. So why don't we start first of all with your background and your story and how you got into this kind of work?
Well, you know, I'm the most unlikely person to be actually coaching women regarding their female monthly rhythm or their female cycle. I'm just the most unlikely person because our hormones are something, my hormones are something that I never considered to have anything to do with what made me tick. So and I think that's because, first of all, I didn't have a wacky cycle. Second of all, I didn't like the reputation that women had around it, you know, what society threw at us as far as our cycles go. You know, oh, it must be that time of the month, or, you know, in the United States, we can't get a woman into the presidency because, you know, who knows, she might push the button, you know, right during that 1 week or something crazy like that. And I'm just so tired of it. So this is not something that was really my field at all. I happen to be an entrepreneur. I was in business, and I ended up in sort of a funny way of I ended up being a hairdresser and then owning a couple of salons, and then I built the first large day spa here in my area in Southern Oregon, in National Oregon. And I had a large staff. I had a staff of 30 women, mainly women. I had a large clientele coming into the spa, mostly women, but we had a lot of men as well. So I was just really surrounded, and I would say that I was in the sea of women's rhythms, really, and I really enjoyed that, but I really wasn't paying attention or identifying anything with the hormones. I'm also a past president of Women Entrepreneurs of Oregon. I've always been an advocate for women's equality and well-being, and I just never ever thought that the female cycle would be a path to me thinking that was our way, that was our missing link to our women's empowerment. And I'm so convinced at this point that by not being in love with the power of our wombs and understanding this rhythm is the missing link to our empowerment as women.
Right. So what we're talking about here is understanding really how our body works, our cycles and rhythms. So what's the importance of knowing this information, and how can we use it in our lives?
Well, the importance of knowing this information is that we've really only been taught the science of the hormones. What happened for me is that back in the late 90s, when I had this large staff, I felt that for my business, I was good at disseminating the information. I felt that I was clear about the vision, but I found myself making inconsistent decisions. And no one ever said anything about it. I just found this for myself, and it really bothered me. And I did the unlikely thing of realizing that maybe I need to track my cycle and see if I can find any insight. I'm not really sure why that even came to me to do, but I did. And I tracked for a couple of months. I didn't do anything that was that big of a deal. I just wrote down notes, how I was feeling that day and that kind of thing. And one day I went home on a lunch break and standing in my kitchen eating a sandwich, and I was flipping through my day planner at the time, looking over my notes, and the words fall, winter, spring, and summer literally floated to the surface, I kid you not, of my day planner. And I've been known in the past, I mean, I've known myself for getting large visions this way. This is just something how my mind processes, and I think I have an open channel, basically. But I saw exactly how this cycle works. I knew exactly what it meant, and so I decided to pay it forward, if you will, by planning it out in my day planner myself. I thought, well, today, let's see, I'm on day 17 of my cycle. That means I'm in week 3, spring, and next week I'll be in summer, and then, you know, did that. And I did that, and I discovered in no time that this was an incredibly accurate system. And what I realized is this was a part that we had never learned, which is crucial to understanding how our hormones work. In other words, we really have a mind, body, spirit, or a science, experience, and wisdom part of our cycle. And growing up, most of us, the vast majority of us, have only learned the science of the hormones. We learned in health class or somewhere along the line about the period and the follicular stage and, you know, this kind of thing. But, you know, it really doesn't have, it doesn't mean anything to our day-to-day lives and how we make decisions. And this particular practice or method completely makes it relative and relevant to our day-to-day experience. And I can give you some examples of that.
Yeah, so we're talking about, you know, different seasons as part of our cycle. So what's the significance of, say, summer or spring? Like, you know, what's the significance of those different seasons?
Well, let me start out by telling you how an easy way to think about how this works. Again, this is, we were talking a little bit before the broadcast about the fact that this is I see this, what I've been shown basically is that this is an imprint that we have as females throughout our entire life, from the time we're born until the time we die. But this imprint surfaces during our reproductive years to show us the blueprint of how it goes. And so what happens is that I take the approximate 28 days as a very broad template and break it down into 4 guided weeks of 7 days each. And each week is a week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. It identifies with fall, winter, spring, and summer. It also identifies with the moon phases, the new moon, the waxing moon, the full moon, and the waning moon. When we look at universal rhythms, when we look at pretty much any rhythm in the universe, you have a basic structure of a resting phase, a building phase, an expression phase, and a deconstructing phase, and back to rest. And the female cycle is absolutely no different. So we are all rhythmic beings. We all have a 24-hour circadian rhythm. So we have a resting phase, which are sleeping phase at night. We get up in the morning and everything starts to jump into action. All of our organs and everything begin to come alive. At some point in the afternoon we peak, and then at night we wind back down, and then we get back into the resting phase again. And we may do that a couple of times during the day, but every human, every living thing on the planet has this resting, building, expression, and deconstructing phase, and depending on the time frame. So, you know, we can see it when we walk outside with the flowers and that kind of thing. So women happen to also have these 4 phases in a month's time. We have to have that because we are construction zones. We're building a nest. We're building a uterine nest to prepare for a pregnancy, and if none happens, we deconstruct that nest, and that's it. That's basically it. I mean, all of this is really very simple when we break it down, but all of those phases affect us differently. No different than that circadian rhythm, that 24-hour period affects us differently. When we're in that resting phase, we don't feel like, you know, we want to sleep. We want to rest, and it's important that we do. If we don't, it messes us up, and we all know that. You know, we might get away with one night of partying, you know, it's a good New Year's Eve or birthday party or whatever it is, but if I miss 2 nights of sleep, I'm a wreck for a couple of days. So we have to have the resting phase. We choose different times of the day where coffee might be good, and we have other times where we say, no thanks, I don't want any coffee. You know, we understand, we make decisions sort of unconsciously. We're not really paying attention that they're rhythmic, but we make decisions all day long that are rhythmic. But women have not been taught to make decisions based on their rhythm, because all we have learned about our rhythm is that it's negative. It's negative to be on the period. There's all kinds of horrible stuff thrown at us around that, and women feel poorly about themselves. They feel bad. They don't even want to talk about it in workshops. I mean, they have all kinds of sad things to say about it. If we're in the 4th week, which is traditionally the PMS time, I get rid of that concept altogether. But if we're in that stage, then we're considered threatening, or we're considered a bitch, or we're considered, you know, something that's really horrible. And so women actually are very, you know, this is a secret sadness, a secret embarrassment that women hold. And it doesn't matter if they're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Every woman on the planet has some different feelings around this issue that's very difficult to to talk about because we haven't been handed anything really positive about it. But when we understand this rhythm and how to make decisions throughout the different phases, everything changes. Everything changes, and we can stand in our core power finally.
Yeah. Now, I know that you've been doing this work since the 90s, and you've worked with hundreds of women and with men as well to help them understand their partners', rhythms and cycles too. So
That's right.
Tell me some stories or some really great examples of people that you've worked with and how this work has really helped to improve their lives.
Great. Well, I was at the first thing that comes to mind is that I was at a festival last year doing a workshop, and, I had a booth with my books and things like that. And I had this one young woman come by the booth while I was in there, and at the time I was talking to someone else, and she came over and she was looking at the books, and just in a matter of minutes she left. And, as the person standing there, I'm thinking, oh, that just didn't resonate with her, or she saw it and she just didn't want to have anything to do with that. But I will say this book is very beautiful too. So usually somebody will stand there. It's fully colored. It's color coded. It's got almost 60 images in it. I mean, so usually even if they're not interested in the topic, they're interested in the book. But she took off, and so I thought, oh, it just didn't resonate with her. Well, about 20 minutes later, she came back, and she came back with her boyfriend, and or her husband maybe, and by that time I had finished talking with the other person, and she came right up, she brought him, and she wanted to know about it, and they both stood there, and I must have spoken with them for about an hour. He was very interested, she was very interested. She had some challenges. It was affecting their relationship, or she felt, and really what happens is when the man understands the rhythmic sex drive of the woman, everything in their relationship can improve. If he's a cool guy that really cares about her, and if she's interested in really allowing herself to express when it's time to express, if she really allows herself to rest when it's time to rest, when she really accepts that she likes variety sexually. Women like variety. Everything is sexual to women, inside and outside of the bedroom, but it comes in a variety of ways. Just having our feet rubbed can be incredibly sexy, things like that. There are ways that we connect, and then there are times when we are over the top in our sexuality. So when the man actually gets how that works, he understands how he can be successful at supporting her, how he can be successful in their sexual relationship. Because otherwise what happens is he's, let's say he's kissing her shoulders one week and she just loves it, and he kisses her shoulders the following week and she just wants him to get off of her. So he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand what, it doesn't make any sense. And actually she doesn't really understand it either, and then she's feeling bad that she's rejected him, and then it just is sort of a bad scene. Anyway, it was really great to talk with this young couple. Well, not yet. I mean, they were in their 30s or something, and I could see it make a difference. They bought the book. They bought the book set. She was going to track, and they were really excited, and she looked so thankful that, and I've had so many women write to me. I've had them write from all over the world saying, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. I'm really not crazy. And I'm just so thankful to have this information that this is all a logical, predictable, supposed to be wonderful rhythm that now I understand and I can get in sync with.
Yeah. So with our rhythms, do they change over our life, or do they stay pretty much consistent the whole time?
Well, we change all the time, depending on what we can look at is basically this. I don't think our basic 4 phases change, but within that is a weather pattern. So let's just take a look at the 4 seasons for a second. The 4 seasons, we can count on fall, winter, spring, and summer. Wherever we live in some version, even if you're in Southern California or something, I mean, I grew up in Southern California, and I think that's where you live. But, I can feel the seasons in Southern California, even though people say there are none there. I know when they are. Fall feels very electric. Winter has its certain personality. But within those seasons, there are different weather patterns happening. Every day is a little bit different. And so as women, we are the same. We have these 4 seasons within a 1 month's time, I say. But Every day is a little bit different depending on the circumstances around us, depending on what's going on with our health, depending on, all the circumstances in our lives. So those are always going to be influencing our hormones. They're always going to be influencing our lives. But basically, this is a very predictable rhythm that we have, that we can start to really understand, and we can actually predict when we might feel depressed or sad. There are certain times that we start discovering patterns in our own personality. Certainly over the years as we go on, that rhythm really starts to change, especially in our perimenopausal years, right before menopause. Things can become very wacky, but the closer we track, the more we'll see that we're still hanging on to a certain pattern. And then after menopause, that rhythm gets more mellow, but we still have it. Right. And I have women track, if they're cycling women, I have them start tracking on the first day of their period. If they are not cycling women, I have them start tracking on the first day of the new moon.
Right. Awesome. Suzanne, I know that we've only just scratched the surface and we're running out of time. So if people want to find out more about you and the work that you do and maybe possibly work with you, where can we send them to find out more?
Well, they can go to my website, which you can get there a number of ways. One is 4s4w.com or 4seasons4weeks.com. I will be having a 13-week online course coming up beginning May 27th. I would love to have your listeners on there. This is a group cycle tracking circle. We'll do group coaching. We'll have live calls, live Q&A, some guest speakers, and women can track all by themselves just fine. They can get the book, they can track by themselves, and I do have a book online that's a must, that they must get. There's a daily tracker and journal that they can also get and do this by themselves. It's just also really supportive and wonderful to do it with a group of women. So that's a good way to go. Yeah.
I can imagine that to be so, because it's like we were mentioning before, how a lot of the times we as women, we go through all these changes and our body does weird stuff, and no one we don't really talk about it with each other.
Right.
This is like code of silence, and to be able to do that in a group situation with women, so that you know that you're not alone and you're not weird, and you're not going through this stuff personally. It's basically a lot of women share the same experience, so I can imagine that group would be awesome.
I never get tired of it. When I'm with the groups of women, I just find it to be, my heart just expands. I know it's important, and the women are so happy to just be able to speak with each other and speak from their hearts. It's really lovely work, yeah, and important.
Excellent. Thank you again, Suzanne, for joining us. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Natalie. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Now, guys, I encourage you to share this video. You can do that by clicking the Facebook and the Twitter share buttons on this page. I also encourage you to download the app if you haven't done so already, so that you can watch the shows on the go. You don't necessarily have to be in front of your computer. And make sure that you put your email in the box on this page as well, so that I can send you the Manifesting with the Masters video e-course. It's actually valued at $87, and I would love to send it to you for free. So until next time, remember to live large, choose courageously, and love without limits. We'll see you soon.